Hey, everybody, and welcome to Memento, a podcast by Washington Avenue Christian Church. See, here at Washington Avenue, we understand that sometimes we forget who we are, and sometimes we forget what we're supposed to do, and sometimes we even forget what we talked about on Sunday. So in an effort to remind ourselves of who we are and what we're supposed to do and what we talked about on Sunday, we bring you Memento. And I am joined here today. My name's Shane. I'm the Connections Pastor here at Washington Avenue Christian Church. I'm joined today by my twin brother. His name is
Jake.
Yeah, that's it.
Did that last time. Name is Jake, and I'm the youth pastor here at WACC.
Indeed.
Yes.
I forget where we were, but we got to lie to a kid the other day again.
Oh, yeah. Lying to kids is the best.
Great start to this podcast. But some kid came up and was like, "Are you guys twins?"
It was
and it
Jensen.
just like, it was that Good Friday.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Jensen Lamb was just like, "Are you guys twins?" Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I love doing that, man.
Yeah, same. Yeah, we had a good 2 years of kids who believed that we were brothers, and we'd forget. And then one time, my grandma was passing away, and I was like, it was prayer requests, and I was like, yeah, my grandma's passing away.
You weren't at embassy, because your grandmother
yes, that's
was
it.
dying.
And you said it, and they were like, don't you mean your grandma? And you were like, well, yeah, I mean, it's like,
yes, of course, my grandma. And they're like, well, why aren't you there? And it's like, well, somebody has
someone
to
had to be here. Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, it's great. Love lying to kids.
Great. It's the best.
Yeah.
Jake's our youth pastor. Great youth ministry. You should come and hang out.
It's a fun time
with them. How was your Easter, dude?
It was good, man. It was good. We had my brother made some ribs. I don't know if he listens to this, but it was pretty good. He did a good job for his first time. And then we made burgers at our house for Aubrey's family, and I was cooking burgers and some hot dogs, and I went inside to change because I was still wearing my Easter clothes. Came back and they were on fire. So that was a mistake. So don't leave your meat to go change because it might catch on fire. Yeah. And then I was like, what do I do? And then it was fine. So, but it was a good time.
So you served burned burgers to your family?
Yeah, yeah.
Way to prove that you can take care of Ob.
Yeah. It was a good,
fulfill her needs.
It was a good moment. It was a good time. Yeah.
I bet it sounds like it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Cool. That's good. Good.
What about you, man?
Yeah, it was good. We had some family over. Well, we were part of the family, I guess, that was over at my parents' house. And then we had my grandma and my mom's cousin and her roommate. Interesting situation there. And yeah, we hung out and it was fun. It was a good day. Indeed.
It was. Sorry, I was getting a phone call and I was like, I need to turn this off.
Yeah. That's why I do that before we start rolling.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to ask you a question right now.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Cool. I'm ready.
Cool. Well, it was a great Sunday here. The room was full, which felt great.
Yes.
Especially 9:30. But I was talking to I bumped into Dave Ritchie. I bumped into the senior pastor of Redeemer Christian Church here in town, whose last name is guaranteed to be Ritchie, but I'm not sure if it's Dan or Dave. Okay. I went to college with a guy whose name was also either Dan or Dave Ritchie.
So it's confusing.
And their last name, they have the same last name, but one was Dan and one is Dave. I don't know which is which.
We can figure it out.
I went
a quick Google search.
I ran into him at Palace, and I just asked how your Sunday was, and he encapsulated it quite eloquently when he said it was even much more so than last year. It felt like a pre-COVID Easter experience. He said, I think last year everybody was there was so much division about masks and no masks and vaccines and no vaccines that some people who might normally have come didn't, and vice versa. Yeah. And so he said this felt real. Yeah. They also baptized 22 people on Sunday. Wow. Which is dope.
That's amazing.
And probably had a lot to do with the energy in their room as well. We did not baptize anybody on Sunday, but still had a lot a great energy and very, very full.
That's super cool. Yeah. I've talked to a couple, I don't know why I'm moving this, but I am. I've talked to a couple pastors about this weekend, and they said very similar things. It was just felt good to be back to normal. Yeah. Even though normal's doesn't exist anymore. But they were like, it just felt what it used to be. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. you asked the icebreaker question last week when you asked me about cereal.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask the icebreaker question this week.
Okay.
When I ask you, what is your favorite memory specifically from your 5th grade year of school?
Fifth grade year of school? Bro, I don't know. 5th grade? The first thing that I can think of, which might not even be 5th grade, is that I won the like knockout tournament.
No way.
That's it. That's all
You
I can
did
remember.
that?
Dude, I'm a low-key baller, bro. I'm learning. Isaac said, I'm learning. I just gotta.
But this was 5th grade. You weren't learning in 5th grade to be a low-key baller. Otherwise, you'd be a baller.
I've always been a low-key baller. I just like don't really.
Were you at Arden Road, Isaac? Can you confirm?
It was elementary. I mean, it was Greenways. I won one time and won 6 weeks. That's all I can remember about 5th grade.
Cool.
I don't remember much about 5th grade, bro.
I remember so much about 5th grade. It's kind of bonkers.
That's cool because
I don't know why.
How?
I had great teachers. I think just that was part of it. But
eat lots of fruit, and that's why you have good memory.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But we set up like a whole museum, and we had to curate like a museum around the American Revolution.
Okay.
That the rest of Arden Road came through, because whenever I was in 5th grade, it was still at Arden Road. And all of the rest of the school came into it, and I like convinced these kids that this old rusty horseshoe was from the horse that Paul Revere rode through the streets of Lexington and Concord on, screaming that the British were coming. And they were like,
"What?" That's awesome.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That was just one memory, but that was a good one.
That is a good one.
We had a pet snake in our class.
Yeah. Mr. Lee's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, until
ate
my
a
friend
mouse.
Seth stepped on it and killed it.
The snake?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we were just like letting it
Get
walk around,
out?
and he just like, no, we were just letting it walk around. What kind of snake walks around? But we were letting it like, slither around. And Seth was like gonna go sharpen his pencil, and he just like very biblically like crushed the head.
I thought you meant like the snake. I know
It
what you
was.
meant. I'm lost.
What? The snake was on the ground, slithering around.
Are we talking?
We were like
pre-fall snakes who have legs,
my
or
life. I'm talking about. Let's answer Dane's question.
all right, sounds good to me.
Spoiled this whole thing. Seth Vaughn, Snake
Vaughn.
Crusher,
Thanks a lot, Seth.
killed Mr. Lee's.
I hope he's watching.
Very
Thanks a
biblical.
lot, Seth, for
Seth
ruining
Vaughn.
Shane's 5th
and
grade
Matt
year.
Beasley. Golly, who's a person that you resent from
one.
school?
I don't resent.
Don't.
I'm not
don't
even
put
lying.
yourself above
I'm
us.
not even. I'm not. I swear. I barely remember 5th grade, let alone anyone that like made me mad in 5th grade. Emma Cunningham broke up with me in the 6th grade.
Emma.
Yeah, I talked to her about this like on Friday. I was like, I told my students that you said God told me to break up with you, and that's like the worst thing you can say. Because how do you argue with that? God told you to break up with you?
Worked out for both of you.
It
though.
did. It did.
It seems
But in the 6th grade, I was very hurt.
devastating.
Yeah. And now this is on the internet, so great. All right.
It's not yet, but it's gonna be.
That's true.
Cool. So, not necessarily doing things different, but what has happened
Yes.
is that Monika keeps sending questions, and now Dane is sending questions as well. So I don't know if they're the only two people that are watching the whole podcast, other than our Samantha watched it. She's
My
so sweet.
mom. Yeah.
Your mom did? That's sweet. She's awesome too. But Monika and Dane keep sending questions. So we're going to focus on Monika's questions and Dane's questions, and then Isaac has got one for us too, because he comes up with the best questions.
He does always. Yeah.
Isaac
coming
thinks
in
about
with
this.
that Greek.
I think it's part of the fact that Isaac gets to listen to the sermon 3 times,
That's true. Yeah.
at least, whereas we listen to it 1 time,
Yeah.
and that he thinks about it more than we do.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because he's just a better person
He's
than we
probably
are.
more redeemed.
He's
than we
like,
are.
I don't know.
But Dane sent in a question this week, so I want to start with that.
Cool.
And it's tangentially related to Easter, specifically around Lenny's communion meditation. So the question goes like this. In Lenny's communion meditation on Easter Sunday, he made the statement, "It's not a toast of a king. It's not a toast of a king, but a holy moment." That was a beautiful statement to me. What did that mean to you, gentlemen, is our communion a holy moment? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
We can. Why don't we just kind of vibe off? I'll go first, and then
It's
you
the
can
whole
just kind of,
podcast is us vibing.
Cool. One.
Cool. Here we go.
Cool. That means like be quiet. Let me talk. One. I think it's incredible that Dane calls us gentlemen. Like it's just I don't know if that's just like a generational thing.
He's
but
a saint.
Yeah, he's just like, what do you think, gentlemen? And I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you go first? That's all I had to say. Oh man,
such a profound. I think it's wonderful that Dane calls us gentlemen.
Anyway, Shane.
Anyways,
what do you think about this?
So we went back and listened to it because we were.
Yeah.
We just wanted to make sure that they got the wording right, because I was thinking like, communion kind of is a toast to a king.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I was like, I got beef with this from the get-go. But Lenny said it's not only a toast to a king,
yeah,
which I can vibe with a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Still a beautiful statement.
Can I ask the question? What does it mean? Like, am I like picking up a chalice and I'm like, to you, King,
Sire,
dying on the cross for us?
Well,
like,
yeah, I think that's part of it, because there are different kinds of toasts, right? And this is kind of what I've been thinking about, is like there's the very celebratory, like, huzzah, we did it toast.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the pour one out for my homies toast.
Yeah.
Right? Which is probably,
pouring out for my homies.
And it can be both.
Yeah.
Right? Like communion can and should be both a time to remember what Jesus did, pour one out for my homie.
Yeah.
Jesus is my homeboy. And also a celebratory, like, look at the victory that you led us to, King Jesus.
Yeah.
So it can be both. I think that it maybe, yeah. I think that we need to like maybe lean into the fact that it is, which is why like I'm glad that we went back and clarified that. Said it's not only a toast. It is, and a toast can be a holy moment.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's celebratory or more rememberable.
Words.
What is that?
Rememberable. Contemplative.
That's what it is.
Yes.
So whether it's more contemplative or celebratory, it can be a holy moment. So what did it mean for me? That it doesn't have to, one doesn't have to negate the other. That a toast can be a holy moment. And then he asked the question, is our communion a holy moment? And I'm wondering, Dane, a little bit what you might mean by that. Is that like a critique? Like,
yeah,
is our communion holy, or are we just doing it because, or like, are we actually like, so I'm struggling a little bit to answer the question, as you can tell.
I think I have other questions. Maybe I could just say, like, is it because, if it's that question, if it's like a critique, like, is it because of like the Protestant tradition and like specifically like WACC? Like it's kind of up to the individual to make it a holy moment, maybe, because like and I don't know a ton about this. I took church history 2 at Ozark without taking church history 1. Don't know how that happened, but I did. And we were talking about this before because I don't know how to say the word, but it's. Can you say the word?
You're gonna bring it up.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Transubstantiation.
Transubstantiation.
Nope, not even close.
Not even
That's
close.
Okay. Well,
I can't say it. I'll figure it out. But yeah, like that's almost like a more like congregational thing. Like this is the holy moment where like this literally turns from like juice to or wine. Would you like to explain that?
Yeah, because
yeah.
I don't know how many people who might
actually
be listening to us
is,
know what transubstantiation is.
So
I literally told you, like, don't bring this up, and you did it anyway.
Really? I didn't. I must not have heard that.
Don't say that in the podcast. Did I not, Isaac? Right? Yeah, I did. And
just because you can't say it.
Yeah, and it's like just a crap ton to talk about, but it's fine. This is
just like a very summarized.
Catholics believe in transubstantiation, which means that as you're taking the morsels of communion, the cracker and the juice, that it literally becomes the literal flesh and blood of Jesus once it passes the threshold of your lips.
I feel like you summarized that pretty well.
Consubstantiation which is what we believe in, means that it's a representation of, that it is a con is with, that it comes alongside and is with, and it is a representation of Jesus' body and bread, which makes me feel more comfortable.
Wow, you articulated that very well.
Thank you.
I liked that. So
either of them can be holy moments. Either
Yes.
of them can be unholy moments if you're just doing it for the routine of doing it.
Yeah.
I think that part of the reason why it may feel like ours isn't a holy moment so much is because we have hyper individualized communion. You look at the biblical like communion, the Lord's Supper.
Yeah,
and it's like
think about how it was originally done.
everybody getting together and like
at a table.
And it was like a whole meal. And there was certainly a part of it where they were like a little bit more somber and they passed the bread and the juice. But it was like literally like they ate and they drank and they fellowshipped and they worshiped and they took care of people's needs. Well, right? That was all of communion. And now it's like, take 37 seconds to listen to the song and take this little cracker that may or may not get stuck in the cup. Samantha's on Sunday.
Really? She couldn't get it
We
out?
had the new communion, and we put the juice inside of the cracker cup and it had pushed and wedged her down. And so she was like the whole time was trying to get
hilarious.
it out. So she didn't get to take communion on Easter. So I don't know if she's saved.
Well, I don't know. Oh my God. I didn't.
She's saved.
I didn't pick one up and my wife didn't get me one.
So you didn't take communion at
No,
all?
well, she like broke off the little cracker and then like poured a little bit. So it was really nice of her.
That was sweet.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to like take my coffee but yeah, I was scared for a second. But yeah, I don't know how long we want to talk about this, but I think that's a big point, that it's like been super individualized, and I'm not, neither of us or Dane, I think, is like upset with how things go, or we're not like talking mess on like how the church has done it. But I do think that like sometimes we can miss out on that because of the way that we do it.
Something to be said about like the communal aspect of it, because I'm just thinking about myself, like most all of my most significant worship experiences have come in a corporate setting.
Yeah.
It's really hard to generate the momentum needed to initiate those holy moments by yourself.
Yeah.
But whenever you're in a group, you don't even realize, and then all of a sudden, like, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like, I think about that one worship service that we were at Ozarks Chapel. I think I forgot who we had taken on a Tuesday tour.
Yeah.
But like, I don't remember what had happened at all, other than that I found myself like sitting on a chair weeping.
Yeah.
And there was like confetti coming out.
We just like looked at each other and both of our eyes were red, and we were like, were we just in heaven, dude? Like, like straight up. Yeah.
Great question, Dane. Thanks for making us think and talking about that. I try and be really mindful of communion. Yeah. I think that communion should be more celebratory than it is. Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. He clearly says that in the text. And he says, this is my body broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So that is certainly a part of it, but I think an equal part of it is like the resurrection aspect of it that makes the death of Jesus
mean something
meaningful and significant in the first place. If Jesus just died and didn't raise, then so did every other person ever.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but because he died and rose, I said that to not go off. There you go. That was weird. Cool. Thanks. Anyway, yeah. I like it. I feel like I got cut off there a little bit by
your computer screen.
The computer.
That's all right.
Stealing my train of thought, but it's okay. Anyway, next question. Monika or Isaac? Alphabetical order, Isaac. Isaac said that his favorite line from yesterday was, if Jesus truly rose from the dead, then everything he says about us is true. As the American church, are there some Christian teachings or concepts we have a hard time understanding and grasping as truth? Are there aspects of the Christian walk that we are missing or misinterpreting?
Yes.
I feel like that's a series of podcast episodes.
Yep. Can I just answer yes, and then we move on?
That is an incomplete answer to the question.
Yes. Yup. Yep.
Let me change it just a little bit with your permission.
Permission granted.
As Jacob Earls, are there some Christian teachings or concepts that are hard for you to understand or grasp as truth? And are there aspects of the Christian walk that you are missing or misinterpreting? And also Shane Wiley, and put your own name in there too.
Yes.
But what?
What if that was just the podcast? And you're just like
Jake's whole role on the podcast from now forward.
Yes.
Is just to say yes.
That reminds me of that.
As punishment for bringing up transubstantiation.
Transubstantiation. Nope. Anyways, yeah, man. Honestly, like, I think I think I've talked about this already, a little bit, but I think specifically in the American church, which is what he brought up, specifically like the Protestant church, I feel like we really focus on the cross. And it wasn't until I was like an intern here at the church where I was like, oh, that's only a part of the story. Like,
oh, jeez.
Just did you hit your nose, bro?
Maybe.
He's a
camera
maybe.
wasn't on
Like,
me. Don't draw
blood.
attention. Don't draw attention to me. Finish your thoughts. I'm just agreeing with you.
Anyways, yeah. And I'm not saying anything about the people who were here before me or like the people who taught me or anything. But I just feel like that wasn't really something that they talked about a lot. Was just like obviously they talked about the resurrection, but it wasn't like a major point in like believing in Jesus. Or maybe it was, but it just really seemed like the focus was the cross. So it's just like to be a follower of Jesus, all that means you have to do is like understand that he died on the cross for you, and he died because you're a sinner and you suck and you should feel bad because Jesus died for you. But it'll be okay if you accept him as your Lord and Savior, and then you get a ticket to heaven because you said yes to Jesus. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big no-no. I don't feel like that's the whole gospel at all, and I think I'm still trying to figure out what the other half of the gospel really is, and it's definitely a process that I'm still working through right now, and even understanding the resurrection. And sometimes I'm like all about it, and it makes sense, and then other times I'm like, man, that sounds crazy, So I said this, and this isn't just something that I've it's just something that I've heard from someone else, but I almost feel like some of the times I'm on the bridge between like cynicism and hope, and I'm like right in the middle, and trying to just figure out that balance of like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but
I mean, you didn't finish the sentence, so it doesn't make sense from that perspective. But knowing you enough to finish your sentences for you, I understand it.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Thanks.
Mine is going to relate.
Cool.
Believe it or not.
Cool.
Because Isaac and I were just talking about this when we went to lunch together prior. And one of the things that I think that the American church misses is how we define the word righteous or righteousness and what that means. And I'm going to be like our whole group on Sunday, like we're pushing a pause on Hebrews because like understanding righteousness really was going to help us with where we go in Hebrews from here forward. But we're just going to have more lecture than like conversation. It'll still be a conversation, but about righteousness, because I think it's so important. And what I was taught about righteousness, because it's a Bible word, and so you like read it and you're like, the heck is that? Like, we don't use that in day to day. So righteous. My dad, righteous. That's how we use it.
Righteous, bro.
So my dad taught me, it's like righteousness is to be right with God. And so like for a very, very long time, that was my understanding of it. And I think that's a lot of people's understanding of it. Mm-hmm. And that's a good understanding of it, but it's a very, very incomplete understanding of it, because like being right with God doesn't necessarily necessitate, that was terrible, doesn't necessitate anything from me moving forward. But if righteousness means something different, then it does. So now that I've teased it, I'm going to answer the question, like, what does righteousness mean? Righteousness is a really important biblical concept, which means that we should probably have a really, really good understanding of it, right? And righteousness means something about who God is and what God has done. It also means something about us and what we do. So, real quick Bible survey question, or not question, but lecture point here for just a minute, all right? Genesis chapter 3, right? Adam and Eve take the fruit from the garden, sin, all that's done. God intervenes, confronts Adam and Eve about their sin, confronts the snake. Whenever he's confronting the serpent, he promises to fix the problem by way of some person, right? I will put enmity between your offspring, Satan, and her offspring, Eve, and you will strike his heel and he will crush your head, right? That's called the proto-evangelion, the first gospel. That's the first time that oh, this is the plan, right? Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. And the rest of the Bible is going along, telling the story of how that gets fixed, right? Genesis chapter 12 comes along. Abraham, we meet for the very first time, and God's like, yo, Abraham, I want you to leave this place and go over there. And if and when you do that, I will bless your family and turn you into a great nation, and then and your family will be a blessing to the world. Right? And Abraham's like, cool, here we go. Genesis chapter 15, right? It's been like 20 years. Abraham's like, yo, God, that family that you promised me, 0 kids. And I'm old, like 75 years old, 0 kids. So here's what this is my guy, Eleazar. He's the head of my servants. He's the head of my household. Let's make the covenant that you made with me, like, he'll be my son and we'll execute the covenant that way. And God says, nope. I promised you a son. I'm going to give you a son. This is a paraphrase, by the way. I promised you a son. I'm going to give you a son. And Abraham says, okay. And then Genesis 15 says, and Abraham believed God, and God credited to Abraham as righteousness. That's righteousness, right? So what is it? It's that God made a promise. Abraham tried to change the promise. God said, no, I made you a promise. This is what we're going to do. And Abraham says, oh, yes, the promise. Let's go with that, right? So righteousness, biblically then, is God's ability to keep his covenant, right? All the way through. All the way through. Abraham's family grows and grows and grows and becomes a blessing to all nations, specifically meaning Jesus, right? Jesus is God's righteousness, which doesn't mean just that he's right with God. He is that, but it's that he is the fulfillment of the covenant that God made with Abraham way back in the day. Yeah. Jesus is the blessing to the nations, right? So that's what it means for Jesus to be God's righteousness. But then the New Testament gets crazy and it talks about how we're God's righteousness. Right? It's not that we are righteous with God, part of it, but that we are, in fact, God's righteousness, which means that if righteousness is connected to the covenant, then there's something that you and I have going on with the covenant as well. So what else could that be but to continue to be the Jesus figure of being a blessing to the nations? Yeah. So what is righteousness? It's not just like a right standing with God, like, good job, but an active force in the world of like continuing to bless the nations by introducing them to Jesus. Yeah. That's, I think, something that our American church misses because we're just like, oh, righteousness, like we're right with God. Cool.
Yeah. But it's not like, I have a question. So you said, like Abraham was counted as righteous, but then like went and talked about like what righteousness meant because of God, if that makes sense. Like you said, righteousness is this like God. So what does that mean for like Abraham specifically? I think I understand what it means for us, because it's like we're not counted righteous.
Abraham believed God, and God credited it to him as righteous, which means that Abraham didn't continue to try and make Eleazar his son. He said, "Oh, I guess I'm going to have a son."
Yeah.
Somewhere. Like,
So
I'm
it's just like
75. I don't know what that's going to look like. But Hebrews, and this is where it all is going to tie back to my group here in a couple of weeks, is like Hebrews 11 is going to say that Abraham believed not just in God, but Abraham believed that God had the ability to raise things from the dead.
Okay.
Isaac, which is why he like submitted himself to God's call to sacrifice Isaac. But even before that, Abraham believed that he was dead. Like his stuff and his wife's stuff that made them be able to reproduce.
Yeah.
Abraham believed it was dead. And Hebrews 11 tells us like Abraham's faith was specifically a faith in resurrection, that he counted himself as dead and God made him alive again for the purpose of having a son, for the purpose of fulfilling his covenant.
I don't know if I've ever heard it that way. That's cool.
Read Hebrews and Romans 5:4.
I have just never gotten that out of it. So that's super
Yeah,
cool.
Romans 4 and Hebrews 11 really give us a lot of insight into like, and this is what it means to be children of Abraham. And like, this is tangential now, but like, I'm saying like so much. This is faith, right? Not just that we have faith in something out there somewhere, but specifically that what makes you a child of Abraham is faith in resurrection.
That's cool.
Yeah. Because Abraham, on 2 different accounts, believed that God would raise him or Isaac from the dead. And he didn't even have to do that.
Yeah. So
did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. And the understanding of like us being counted as righteous is because like Jesus is in us, so we're supposed to show people Jesus.
Part of it, this is where like imputed righteousness gets a little bit weird.
Say that again.
Imputed righteousness. It's a thing.
I'm not saying it's not a thing.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not a thing that we have.
Like,
to
I don't believe that you just made that word up.
But like, we're not righteous, but God, through Jesus, declared us to be guiltless. So it's not like he like carved out, and this is imputed righteousness. It's not like God carved out a piece of Jesus' righteousness and put it on us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He just said, "Oh no, all the stuff you did, it's not there anymore. You still did it. Like I still have committed the sins that I've committed. God, it's just a not guilty verdict."
Yeah.
And now having Jesus by way of the Holy Spirit operating in us, we're not just right with God, but like that means that we also function in the way that Jesus functioned in the world in his lifetime of bringing heaven to earth and like being that overlap of earth and heaven on earth.
So I feel like I've heard the statement before, like, when God sees you, he sees Jesus. What does that have anything to do with like what you're saying? Well, but I don't know if does he just see Jesus or does he see like us? I don't even know if that matters to what you're saying.
I think it's a both and. I'm not sure that it matters, but yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Doesn't see all of the bad things that, like all of your sins. He just sees you created in his image for a reason and a purpose, specifically to use your gifts and talents to bring
I would
about
almost
his
say that
plan.
it does see the bad things though. But it's like you said, it doesn't count as like bad.
Maybe.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, these are thoughts that I need to think about more. Yeah.
Isaac also asks, what are some aspects that we're missing? And this ties nicely in with Manika's question, which follows up right after it. What are some key elements of the Christian walk that many people are missing today? And I think, aside from what I've just said, another element of things that we're missing is just, and maybe this is just the trip that I'm on right now because of like my Sunday night class that I'm teaching, but the emotional mature, the journey to emotional maturity.
Yeah.
You know, and both the good and the bad of that. I think that sometimes we think that being a good Christian is never expressing our feelings, especially our frustrations, or engaging in any kind of conflict or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas that, I don't believe, is the good or healthy thing to do. The better, good, and healthy thing to do is to like acknowledge those, and Christ, in a way shaped by Christ, engage those things.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus got angry a couple times, and he didn't just like stuff it and move on.
Yeah.
He did something about it. So I think that's something that we're missing. I think it's kind of on the come up right now. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's
me too.
On the come up.
Yeah, I was literally telling some people that I was talking to yesterday just about like if they were interested in volunteering in our ministry, that Aubrey and I would really use that type of language a lot. And I was just like, hey, like, I know this is probably a little bit different than like what you were taught. So I just want you to know, like, this is the language that we're going to use. You know, Aubrey's studying to be a licensed professional counselor. Like, I'm probably going to get a spiritual formation degree. Like, we're going to be using this type of language. Like, we have feelings wheels, you know, like in our rooms. And I don't even know if you know what a feelings wheel is. But the idea is just like, yeah, like emotions are important, but they shouldn't control us. And like, as a Christian, I should know. But like, it's like emotions were given to us by God. So it's not like emotions equals sin, you know, like emotions aren't bad. Like, they're given to us by God. Like, and if it was just all logic and like thoughts, like that'd be a pretty boring relationship with Jesus, in my opinion, you know, if it was like only,
says the guy who's a feeler.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But, and I think theology and thinking is important, but like, how boring would it be if it was just like a math equation, you know?
It'd be great,
like,
but it'd be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be easy. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I'd way rather it affect my emotions. But yeah, yeah, I'm listening. That's like my whole life is like that type of stuff. Like that's, if English was my first language, I would want that type of language about Christianity to be my second language. It's just like, no, like like what is transformation if not like becoming a more spiritually and like more aware person, you know, like I just, what are we doing if we're not doing that, you know? Like, are we, I don't know, we're wasting our time, I think.
Right.
Yeah. When just becoming more like Christ is just seeing the sin in your life and like moving
not just
past
diagnosing it mentally, but and not just also like hands going to fix it, but like processing, like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, like, what are my motivations? Why? And some of the times, like, you don't even know those things because like you're unaware, you know, like, and that's why I think people speaking into your life is super important. You know, like Greg told me stuff yesterday that I'm like, I was blind to, you know, like I don't even see it like that. And he asked me questions about, like, he's like, Jake, and I'm just going to throw myself out here, but he's like, Jake, like you're a charmer, dude. Like, you really know how to like talk and say stuff. And he's like, do you like doing that? Like, do you like charming people? And I'm like, bro, I don't, what? Like, you know, like I feel like I just talk and like things just work out. But what he kind of made me realize is like, I can be manipulative sometimes when I'm like trying to get what I want, because I know the right language and I know the right things to say. And I just felt there, like, I felt like exposed, you know, but I was also like, I don't know, just really appreciate him saying that type of stuff. But like,
which is why like things like mentoring is so good and so important. And everybody, regardless of like what age or stage that you're at in your life, you should have somebody like speaking into you, and you should have like a peer relationship, and you should have somebody that you're pouring into. It's kind of like the biblical model that Paul set up for us. Also, why things like the Enneagram I think are so helpful. And I know that the Enneagram gets a lot of like bashing. it's not bad, and it's not satanic, and it's not anything other than a useful tool that specifically highlights how you respond to wounds in a sinful way, not so that you can celebrate that, but that you can have a starting point to grow out of and grow from on your journey to being more like Christ. And I don't know why that's bad.
Keep talking, because I'm going to look up a quote. Okay. I think my favorite thing that one of the, there's a lot of things that Shane Wood has said that I like a lot, but one of the things that he said about the Enneagram that like really caught my attention was, he said, I don't care if you think like the Enneagram is like satanic or whatever, like doesn't matter. Like I'm going to use it as a tool. And my question to you is like, what are you doing? Like what, if you're not going to use the Enneagram, what are you using? Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, that's good. Cause like, you can come at me and tell me that my tool is bad, but like what tool are you using? Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about, I read this book recently called The Gift of Being Yourself by David Benner. And there's this quote that I've heard so much, and I don't know how to pronounce the last name of the guy who said it, but it just says, "Grant, Lord, that I may know myself, that I may know thee." So it's like the idea is like the more that you understand yourself, the more you can understand God, because like God created you
in His image.
In His image, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, but also like understanding that you are like distorted. So how can you become more like Him? So like becoming aware of yourself and the things that you're doing wrong and doing right, just are really helpful to have a relationship with God. And I was like, I would 100% recommend that book.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it was super good.
Sounds good.
So there's also this, I don't know if we're doing recommendations, but there's a sermon series from this church in Portland, Oregon called Bridgetown. And there's this guy named John Mark Comer, and he did this. Have you ever heard of him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of him. Yeah. Well, you should teach me better. Anyways, he did a series, I think called Spiritual Formation, and I'm on like number 3 right now. And it's like, I think if Aubrey and I had a baby and then started preaching, this is what it would talk about. Like just the way that he's saying stuff. I'm like, I want to be like this guy. Like super cool. So yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
We blew the clock today. It's gone.
Yeah.
Obliterated.
That's fine.
Done.
Yeah.
We even paused at one point to talk about extending the clock, and then we blew that extended clock as well. That's okay.
We should go to like an hour and 30 minutes one day.
Woof. I mean, we could. I feel like this has been really good.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about the like count from last week.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I was up 1. I had one more like this week
than
I did last week. No.
Oh, I was like,
no, good Lord. No, just on from the week before. I had 46
explodes.
And I went to 47. You were down 10 from like 76 to 67 or something like that.
Dane has made me very self-conscious.
Yeah.
He talked to us about it on Sunday. He was like,
it's true.
I'm done. I said like.
Yeah.
Let's end the podcast.
Said it a lot.
I noticed it that time. After talking about how Dane was saying that we say like too much.
Shoot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe next week we can celebrate it a little bit more.
Yeah.
If you, for whatever reason, weren't with us on Easter, jump on YouTube and check out our Easter sermon. It was really good. We didn't even talk about that. The Easter sermon.
It was awesome.
Woof.
Yeah. Jesus. We did though, because Jim said that. A lot of that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Resurrection.
Kinda.
He did. That's an exact quote from Jim.
I mean, yeah, but anyway, it's fine. Go listen to it. Listen to other people's Easter sermons. Celebrate the risen Lord. Yeah. And whatever venue you're listening to this on, like, subscribe, rate, share this mug.
Yeah. I'll say one thing too. If you're listening to this, it's Thursday, and there's a young adult event tonight at 7 p.m. Love to have you there. There's pasta and yard games, and Rachel and Gary Stone are sharing their testimony, which is going to be super cool. So you should hit me up by Facebook or Instagram or email or something like that. Yep. Technology.
I'll be driving to Oklahoma City.
Nice.
Today. whenever
Why
people are listening.
are you going
to
to
this.
Oklahoma City?
We're taking Janessa for just like a little weekend away
That's
before
so
she
fun.
loses her only
Yeah.
child status.
I can't wait to be a father. That sounds
It's
super cool.
the most fun. Except right now, Janessa's in the phase where she's like, Daddy, no, go to work. I miss you. And
Oh,
it's just
God.
like, I quit.
Yeah,
I quit. I'm done.
Jim, I'm not those vacation days you were telling me to take. I'm taking it today.
All of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I've been like, baby, I have to go to work today, but we're going to.
Gosh, how do you do that? I would just get in the car and cry.
It's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's so sweet. Anyway.
Too much.
digression. Like, share, subscribe, rate, review. We love
Post
you
this
guys.
on your story.
Yeah, there you go. Post this on your story so all
Yeah.
your friends can see this mess as well.
Yes. Silliness.
Indeed. All right.
I tried to burp.
Burping on it as soon as like I'm trying to
Oh my gosh. Some crazy lyrics.
trying to wrap this up and you're just like, oh my life. We love you guys. Happy Easter. Jesus is still risen today, not just on one Sunday a year. We'll talk to you next week. We're back in Ephesians. It'll be great.
Bye.